Thank you so much for agreeing to talk to me. Number one, I appreciate you. To start, right? So for everybody that doesn't know, this is Mr. Steve Fisher. Okay, he runs the Twitter account SF Investigates. I heard a little bit about your background when you did the interview with the Glare, so I kind of got a good gist of your background, what you've done. I guess I'd like to start by saying, or at least asking, the minute that you posted AWP's Jared's court stuff, what led you to that point?
So I was involved as a searcher for Kylie Rodney up in Truckee, and of course, Adventures with Purpose is the group that found her. I kind of got tied up in that, which I didn't want to, because of the whole way the notification process worked with notifying her family. And I happened to be with her father and her grandfather at the time. So I really got kind of thrown into the mix on that. And then it created a whole separate story. And from that, there was a lot of chatter on Twitter, and there was a lot of like accusations and whatnot against me. And a couple of days after the recovery, I got I had a journalist contact me and say, I know you're getting a ton of heat online because, people think that you're lying about being with the father and the grandfather. And they said, I just want to let you know, you might want to look into a case in Utah involving Jared, that may be involving Jared. And then they said that it had to do with, SA crimes. And, that was about it. And so I started looking around, and of course, you're not going to find anything like that until there's something charged, or, when they're investigating, they're not going to look into it. However, I did a bunch of searches and I did some sweeps on the courts and stuff there. And then I ran across some posts on Reddit from this person that was making these accusations against Jared, claiming to be a family member. So I had seen those, and there were some that dated back quite a ways. There were some that were in a private Facebook group that I had seen a few of, and so I just monitored it. It was not something I was going to disclose at all, because my whole thing is, I'm not here. Everybody thinks I'm here to take down AWP. I am not. I just want the truth when it comes to situations like this, because we're dealing with families that have lost a loved one. We can't be playing games with, those people, and the truth is super important. And that was not happening in this case. I mean, it's still not. I still know outright lies. And so anyway, I was monitoring this, but it's not something I was going to come out with, because it's just an accusation at that point. Anybody can put anything on Reddit. I did not reach out to that person that was posting it or anything like that. However, I set up, through LexisNexis and some other systems, I set up sweeps to go through the courts and just, ping me if his name pops up. And sure enough, charging documents came down the other morning, and there they were. I was shocked. I did not think anything was going to come of that, those posts. I was shocked.
Steve, so then a reporter called you and gave you a hint that this was going on.
It was a journalist that had been monitoring. I don't even know. I don't think they've even written on the Kylie Rodney situation, but they were monitoring it, and I think that they've had some involvement with AWP in the past. And they just said, "Hey, I know you're getting thrown under the bus, and it's brutal what's going on right now." And what they originally said was, they had heard that the reason Jared was not in Truckee for the Kylie Rodney situation is because he was either meeting with or in some sort of negotiations with prosecutors in Utah. And then they they just gave me that small amount of information. Of course, you can't start calling prosecutors, but I did then find, the Reddit posts, and the Reddit posts were getting deleted, but I just happened to catch it at a time, and then they would pop up every once in a while. The cousin would come back, and from what I understand, then there was a lockdown Facebook group of that had some posts too, and so every once in a while they would trickle out, but then they would disappear. And this was in the AWP subreddit. I'm not real super familiar with Reddit, but I think they're called subreddits, but they would get deleted too. So I knew somebody was monitoring those, and I don't know if AWP is the one who actually sets those subreddits up or not, but so I just watched it. I didn't pursue it at all, besides putting some alerts in on sweeps with the court systems, and it just happened to go off, unfortunately.
Bringing it up to Twitter, right? What was your thought process behind just saying,
well,
I got to put this up here?
Yeah, so that was, first of all, I'm very unpopular with a lot of people on Twitter, as I think most people know, which is fine, because, there's nothing out there that I've lied about or given bad information on, and I try to lead people the right direction. I disclosed the fire cameras and, when I found it and everything. And so people can accuse me of that. But however, I was nervous about putting it out, because I was like, this is going to look like I'm trying to torpedo AWP and pile on, which I'm not. But, AWP has tripped themselves up with these lies. I have known since 2 days after the recovery that Nick, the tow truck driver, is false. It's just a marketing story. And, it's frustrating to have this information and have people coming up with these wild stories still to this day. And however, I was like, do I, go back at this again and get all these, crazy DMs and stuff? But, I had to. That was a serious, those are, that victim, because right now, as far as charging goes, there's only, one victim right now. I know there's other accusations, but as far as probable cause goes, there's only one person right now.
And that's what I wanted to clear up, because people think that Jessica is the actual named victim of, and it's not.
No, the name
it's actually Hero.
The name victim is a Jane Doe right now.
Yes.
As far as courts go. So they do protect those people. And keep in mind, they go off when the crime happened. She was 9 years old. So her name may eventually come out, but right now she'll be protected. And I'm certainly not going to disclose her name, but so she, Cheska, who has come out, who is Jared's sister, with serious allegations. Those are just allegations right now. Those have not been, there's 2 counts against Jared right now, but that doesn't mean 2 individuals. That means there was 2 separate occasions that they charged him for with the same person. So yeah, people should not confuse that. Jessica is not the victim in the court's eyes right now, as far as the case goes. She very well could be a victim. I don't know. But right now, the only thing we go off is what there's probable cause to pursue, and that's the unnamed cousin.
Wow. Has and not to bring Kylie Rodney up again, because I try to be careful with that, but
yeah.
Are they aware about AWP, Jared, and his?
Yes. Yeah, they are. Yeah, and I haven't had long conversations with them about it. I have, had a conversation, and but I haven't talked to them about this part, but I can only imagine, they've been put through a lot of pain by people. There's some people who said some really hateful stuff, especially against the mother, and they got to realize that everybody grieves differently. Just because they're not doing it to appease everybody on Twitter doesn't mean that they're have something to do with her death. But now, on top of that, which a lot of that was caused by these false narratives that were put out by AWP about Jagger and about the tow truck guy and whatnot. But now, on top of that, her last memory is their daughter was recovered by somebody that's accused of 2 counts of SA against a child. So the organization, I understand he was not there, but
yeah. Steve, are you saying that just to be clear, and you don't have to answer this.
Yeah.
It's completely up to you. Are you saying that tow truck driver guy from the documentary is not real? Is he an actor?
From the documentary. Oh yeah, from the. So I don't know if he's an actor. I do think that he probably was employed by AAA. We had been told at the recovery site that he was AAA, even though they refer to him as the roadside assistance guy, but it was AAA, and I think he probably did work there. I've seen him. I can track him to a couple different jobs. I don't think. So I don't think he was an actor, but 100%. I know he didn't run across Kylie.
Jagger or Kylie.
Or Jagger. Definitely not. I mean, neither one of them. I mean, Jagger 100% can be placed in Napa, where he lives now, or he did before. Kind of been missing at his dad's. And, Kylie went, unfortunately, tragically, went in the water Friday night, well, or very early Saturday morning, by 1 a.m., so it's just, I don't know what he saw out there. I have a feeling I kind of know where the story was born from, because there was another sighting right after she went missing up at Boca, and some people knew about that. AWP was told about that by law enforcement, just as private background, and I have a feeling that was kind of exploited. They built something upon some real leads, but those were checked out by the FBI. And keep in mind, when Nick, the tow truck driver Nick, came out and said that this was all on video and everything. Listen, the FBI were there within hours to retrieve that video, and because they had no problem getting warrants. There was a judge signing warrants for cell towers and everything like that. They had that information immediately, and if Jagger had been seen on camera in town, he would have been locked up for lying to the FBI, because by that time he had already had multiple interviews. But there was, so, just because the FBI doesn't say anything, people should be able to kind of read, like, it doesn't take them that long, to figure this stuff out. And especially when it's going to be like AAA, who's going to comply. And now, like, so, I hear yesterday, like, they're trying to resurrect this story that Nick is 1,000% sure, and he bet $1 million. So first of all, I'll tell Nick, I will take that $1 million bet. I honestly will. If he means it, I will bet the $1 million right here. You did not see her Saturday. But so they're trying to resurrect this story. But the thing is that he's not. Why isn't he providing even a screenshot from his? He says that he's got GPS on his phone showing who's there. Let's see that screenshot. Let's see the dispatch text he gets from AAA saying, go to Boca because there's a broken down car. Kylie nor Jagger have AAA. Let's see something. Let's hear his voice. Like, why? This isn't that hard to do. His girlfriend, was she there or not there? Because I've heard conflicting things, and we have been told that he started shooting video on his personal cell phone because he was so concerned about the female. That's what Doug told us. So there's all this, but he can't come up with anything.
You invited those conversations, though, with AWP. I do remember you saying that in the Glares interview. You said, I reached out to them via email. Mm-hmm. I remember the Glare said, I'm willing to drop a link if anybody wants to clear this situation up because of the inconsistencies as far as information goes. Yeah. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is. And so this is only the third show I've ever done, because I don't do them. A lot of people say I'm a cloud chaser, but I did the Glare, and then right after the Glare, I went on Zav's Live because Ryan Upchurch was on there, firing off on all kinds of stuff about the family and crazy theories that she was fake and that the car magically flew from Boca to Prosser, and so I got on there just to be like, this is crazy, and then you're the third. So I don't do a lot of these. I'm not living it, but I did before I ever did even a single show. Before I did the Glare, Grizzly True Crime had asked me if I wanted to come on. That was right when Check It TV had found the laptop and everything in the water. So she said she asked us to be on, and then she wanted to get AWP involved. And then, but AWP, which I was like, great, let's do that, because let's just work these things out. Like, let's get the story straight so everybody knows there's no lying. You know what I mean? Like, so everybody knows that there's not this big conspiracy, because people think I'm like trying to like fix it for, like, I have the ability to, like, you know, cover things up. But they told her we will not appear if Steve's on the program, and they've told that to every host. They're like, if Steve's gonna be there, we will not appear. They won't do it. They simply won't. Their only thing that they replied to me then was that we don't reply to any drama. They said that by email.
What?
So it's like, it's not drama. It's just like, let's work this out, because, you know, you're saying, because then they started, you know, when Jared started doing interviews, then it turned into, then they confirmed that the mail was confirmed. He said that on Zap to Ryan, when, you know, Ryan's like, and but then we hear, so the mail was confirmed, but then it sounds like yesterday, when that supposed interview with Nick, the tow truck driver, came out, it sounds like he confirmed the female but not the male. So it's all very confusing. But I'd like to know where this comes from, and I'd like to know why they're saying that they notified law enforcement. They never notified law enforcement that they found Kylie. The law enforcement heard about it how we heard about it, on Facebook. You know, they found her much early. You know, I was notified at 2:48. That's when I told her father and her grandfather. But it had come out on Facebook about 30 minutes earlier, or 25 minutes or something like that. And that's when I got a call from somebody that saw it. And that was, so say it's like 2:15 or so. Well, they had found her hours earlier. You know, what were they doing all that time? Because in the press conference the next day, they say at 10:30 this morning, we launched the boats. And at 11:15, we confirmed we had a vehicle. Well, what were you doing between 11:15 and 2:15? You know, like, what they were doing was they were shooting a lot of video underwater. And I know that because they had it there, and I saw parts of it. And, you know, I also saw, and that's the other thing. It makes me furious when they're throwing these things out there to make it sound like she was not clothed and she was strapped down. They had video of her. They knew that was not true. They knew that was false. They should have just said, nope, that's, you know, that was not the case. But when they said, can you tell us if she was clothed? We don't want to jeopardize the investigation. You
well,
know,
they came out of the water saying it's foul play. So
murder.
And they released that
Mm-hmm.
without an investigative authority, without anybody saying that's what the case is.
Yep.
We know 100%. Okay.
Very frustrating, because, you know, this family, although they kind of live off the grid, you know, they had become connected because of Kylie missing. They actually went out and bought a bunch of hotspots and stuff like that. And they're seeing this stuff, you know, like, I mean, I talked to her grandfather almost daily, I'd say, and still, and like, they're just devastated. They see this and they're like, why, like, like, you gotta understand, this is not like some true crime, you know, video game or whatever. This is a real person. This is a real family that lost their daughter. And these accusations where people are just like, oh, the mom did it, or the mom should feel bad about this and that. People don't know the whole story. People don't know. There's still stuff that the family's going to hold back. But, you know, people are talking about, oh, she shouldn't have been driving after 11. You know, maybe there was other plans, but, you know, there are things that the public doesn't know, and they just kind of like, it's just to call somebody a murderer. And then, you know, Sammy, like, listen, I agree, Sammy, I don't know why in the world she was out front, like, saying, bring all the leads to me, bring out, you know, like, now that ended up being okay because the FBI did some trickery, let's say, ended up working in their favor. But because she was holding those meetings in a privately owned trailer, and if that person gives permission to do certain things, it's, you know, so, you know, they had control of the situation. But to say, you know, to accuse Sammy still of Sammy being a murderer and Jagger being a murderer, when Jagger clearly is, I mean, there is all of his cell phone data, there's so much, there's surveillance, everything putting him in Napa. The car, like, I thought when I said about the fire cam, that you could see the car unfortunately go in the water. I just really thought that would kind of knock down. So it did knock down some of them, but I mean, there's still a lot of people out there that think that car somehow magically, like the phone was dropped in Prosser, the car went up to Boca, they partied all night. The next day they just kill her for no reason, and then somehow they fly the car back to Prosser and drop it in the water right where they put the phone. Just the whole thing makes no sense, you know. It's like, and on top of that, and we can get off the Kylie thing. There's like, for what? Like what? Like we kill her for what reason? You know, there's nothing. There's no motive. There's nothing. It's like, it does not make sense. And you know, there's an event data recorder, which people have not seen, you know, which people will. I mean, they are going to release a highly redacted version of the crash report. It will be coming out. But there's a lot of other data people haven't seen that, you know, so.
For sure. So, you know, and not to take away from the fact that they found her, right?
Mm-hmm.
However they conducted themselves, they found her, and I don't think that was. I think what people are struggling with is that idea that, okay, here's this person that was regarded as the hero, this group of people were regarded as heroes, and then you find this out, and what do you do with that disappointment? How do you process that?
That's a tough one, because listen, I don't take away from for a minute, but they do great work. I mean, like, they do provide a lot of closure for what, 24, 25 families now. They're very good at what they do. I will say law enforcement should have found that car. I mean, that was the most screwed up investigation that has been I've ever seen. You know, it was so poorly done. And that car, I watched the divers. Literally, they had to be within feet of her, like they're floating over the top of where the car ended up being, you know. And how they missed it, I'll never know that. But I don't think it was. I don't think it was it was not intentional. They're just not that good at sonar, I guess. But you know, but then so they are very good at what they do. But then to have this, like, it's just like it's horrible, because like I said, it kind of puts a stain on all those 25, you know, people. They're always going to be tied to that. Online, you ever Google, you know, one of these deceased people's names, it's gonna be attached on Google to a story about AWP, which is be attached to a story about Jared with these sex crimes, you know. And it's just not, you know. And I feel sorry for those guys if they did not know, if they truly did not know about these charges, which I don't understand how I knew about it and they didn't. But if they did not know, I feel sorry for them, because that same thing is going to happen to these guys, is that they're always going to be the guys from AWP.
Well, but if the guy who's always on the camera, right, or in front of media, he's the banner of the page, he is the face of AWP, is not at the site of where everybody's paying attention to, which was Kylie Rodney.
Yes.
It does kind of make you wonder, well, did you guys know he was meeting with, potentially going to go to Utah, you know, allegedly to go meet with prosecutors to do that?
I think that they're very, yeah, exactly. Because first of all, they were, from what I was told when I was there, just so people know, I was really not familiar with Adventure with Purpose before this. I had heard their name, but I hadn't watched a single one of their videos. But I knew they had a good reputation. And when their first names first started getting kicked around about possibly coming out to Truckee, because they were like in Wisconsin or somewhere, like, and they were far away. In the Discord that I'm in, some people I work with, you know, people were familiar with them, and I found out they had a great reputation for finding people. But something, you know, that the case had got a lot of attention by then, and there was a reason that they left there and came all the way back to the West Coast for this case, and it's because they knew this and the Julissa Fuentes case were heating, you know, were becoming big names. And listen, which I don't fault them for at all. It's good publicity for them, which they need, you know. And but yeah, so why wasn't the guy who is, because I mean, Jared is AWP. I mean, I know it put Doug out there, but Jared is, he's the founder, he's the front man, he's he's everything. He has, I think he has ultimate. In fact, he lists himself as the creative director online. So and I think he does have creative control over all the edits and everything like that. So he is the guy. Why wasn't he there? It makes sense to me now that the charges have dropped. He probably was negotiating with prosecutors, because when you're a target of an indictment, they do notify you 90% of the time. Prosecutors will tell you or your attorney that you are a target of an indictment. And I don't think this didn't go in front of a grand jury, but it's the same process. They'll tell them, especially since the charges are so old. They probably interviewed him already. I would not be surprised if what they were doing was interviewing him and getting his side of the story. So.
Right. Can you tell me a little bit about what you released this morning as far as Twitter? Because you released a couple of things.
So they were really just kind of procedural things. So yesterday, his attorney essentially filed with the court, notifying the court that he was the attorney of record. It's an attorney, criminal defense attorney out of Utah, and he did file a motion with an order to appear via WebEx, which is like we're doing now, remotely. And the judge did sign the order this morning, so she's allowing that. However, he still has to be booked at the jail and fingerprinted and go through the whole booking process. Then he'll be released. And so it shows in the in his initial charging documents that he has to do that by 8 a.m. on the 30th. So he can do it, I think, anytime before this. So I imagine that what they're trying to do is make sure there's no cameras, so get any photos of him going in and out of the court. And so what they've done is they've set it up for remote, and he may have already by now, but he'll fly in and out, probably Utah, go and be, surrender and be booked, and then leave, and that way nobody catches him on camera. There's no questions, stuff like that. That's my guess. So he filed those, and then they just filed a motion with the state to turn over all the discovery, which just means all the evidence that the state has, which could be interviews with people, it could be emails, it could be text messages, whatever it could be. They have to give Jared's side a copy of everything, so they know what they're, each side has to disclose all the information that they have. So
the public only knows about this email. We don't know what else they might have on him.
Yeah, I don't think there's any chance that they're going just off that email. I mean, yes, there is somewhat of a confession in there, but I guarantee they have more. They definitely have a very long statement from the cousin, because she said so, I think, on your show, right? Like, she said that she had talked, in fact, she said she met with Nevada prosecutors as well, but then she said that she had an interview with Utah, and then she got the call, and she, that they were going to prosecute it. I guarantee that they've probably spoken with other family members, probably. I wouldn't be surprised if they've interviewed the sister. They probably have subpoenaed or got a warrant for those emails. So for that email server, they probably have got a lot, I would say, because listen, they're going to have a tough time, even with that confession, because of the age of it. Because I guarantee the first thing they're going to do is fight the statute of limitations. Even though they waived that in 2017, there is something in there that says if a case before 2017, if the crime happened before 2017, you really go off the old statutes, unless you did not know who the person committing the crime was after they changed the statute. So there is like this weird
clause to it.
There's some middle, yeah. So I think that his attorney is going to exploit that first thing. He'll probably, as soon as he's on the 30th, as soon as he's arraigned, I would imagine within a day or two, they'll file a motion to dismiss and say, listen, this, they're reading the statutes wrong, they're reading the law wrong. It'll all be procedural, but it's not going to be easy. So I guarantee they're not going just off that. They got to have more in their pocket than just that.
Well, to make this man travel all the way across this couple states to Utah. I mean, that says a lot. But you also found some other stuff on his background. Can you I mean, the one thing that stood out, and you guys got to go to his Twitter because I said before his Twitter is lit. You found weapons
Yeah,
charges. You found a bunch of stuff.
yeah. He he's gotten off of a lot of it, but still, he was charged, and he does have a felony conviction. But I think there was I'm not looking at it right now, but 29, I think, separate items on his criminal report, which I think there was makes it about 20 individual. Some of them are when they're pleaded down and whatnot. But from 90, they go from about 90. I think they go from 88 to 1999. They're all in that stretch. But between 2002 to 2004, which is when the same period of time we're talking about, these supposedly happened. There's a lot, so it's everything from Grand Theft Auto, unauthorized use of a car, which is Grand Theft Auto. There's dangerous weapon charges, pointing a weapon at another. There's burglary. I'm sorry, theft. There's evading police. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. I have it. It's on my Twitter if you go back a little ways. But now a lot of those, I will say, he got dismissed or he got out of. A lot of these things they just don't prosecute. But he did. I know on the weapons one, it looks like he was. It said that he was convicted and sentenced. I have not been able to get the sentencing information now. Hopefully, I'll get that soon.
Some people will say, you know what? The 90s was probably a crazy time for this guy, right? And maybe AWP was a way in which he sought redemption from all this stuff. What do you think about that?
Well, I think, time, if it wasn't, if it was a victimless crime, I could maybe see that argument, but there's a victim here. And starting AWP and finding recovered bodies is not what the court sentenced you to. You still, we don't get to choose our own sentences. We don't get to say, hey, listen, I did this wrong. I'll make it better on my own. Everybody's still got to go through the process. And listen, it's not just about punishing the person. It's about helping the victim get through this, knowing that you have to be accountable for it, or we're gonna hold you somewhat accountable. Never makes it right at all, but you don't get the skirt that just because you kept it quiet for that many years. Listen, she was 9 years old, and people are like, innocent to proven guilty. Listen, there's probable cause here. So the probable cause, once the probable cause is established, and there's a probable cause statement, then you can treat that defendant as if they are guilty. That's how we have the ability to hold people in jail or hold them on bail. We can do that because there's probable cause, and we can now assume that they are guilty. However, to be convicted and sentenced, a jury you have to reach that burden beyond a reasonable or preponderance of evidence. So, you can't let, just because 30 years have passed, so what? She was 9. This woman is not doing this because she's got a thing she's doing this because she's been suffering for 30 years and she's been pursuing this. Just because we just heard about it doesn't mean that it just started. She wasn't like, oh, I forgot about this, happened 30 years ago, and now he's known on YouTube, so I'm gonna go after him. She's been pursuing this for a long time. These emails happened February 10th, long before Kylie Rodney or anybody went missing. So this is not, she's not doing this just because to pile on here. It's just timing.
Yeah, because people were saying, well, now that he's made this, I said, you know what? The victim said, okay, the one named on the paperwork said that she just wanted him to walk to jail and make a confession. That's what she said.
From what I believe she said on your show that I heard her, and from what I read in the emails, she and on Icamel, or through Icamel, he was on. I guess he co-hosted with you. She says she don't want. Well, first of all, This is a criminal proceeding. So this is the state versus. This is not. They're
It's
not.
not civil.
They're not representing her. Those are
Yeah.
not attorneys. There's no any fine. If he was the monetary fine, does not go to her. It goes to a restitution fund for the state. So now she can file civilly if she wants. However, this is criminal. So this is about prosecuting him. So she's not. She wants him. She wants him prosecuted. She wants him to be punished legal by the court for what he did, not him saying, I got it, I fixed myself, and that's, she deserves that. And so does, if any other victims are shown to have probable cause, they deserve that too. There's no, this is, 9 years old. And the fact that people are on Twitter and on YouTube and are excusing this because of the amount of time that has passed, or because he happens to own AWP, is just mind-boggling. It's a 9-year-old. There's somebody online. There's a guy, I won't say his name, but he's putting up things saying that it should be legal, and he's defending him and saying that that Jared is the victim.
I heard. It's disgusting.
Don't get where that comes from. It's such. It just defeats these women that are victimized even more. When he said I don't get it.
So many people have made statements. Okay, you had Ryan Upchurch who said, "Give me the 100K back." What do you feel about that?
I don't know about that, because he won't. It's kind of bizarre, because I was under the impression that Ryan had not paid the reward, but he's not calling it a reward. He keeps calling it a donation. So, and then there was that, because at first, remember, he came out, he was like blasting AWP, and then all of a sudden Jared appeared on the same thing, and then they were buddies, and then he was going to do a song for them, and now we find out there's been a donation to his personal account. I have a feeling it might have been more of a business transaction, but I think more will come out about that probably.
Yeah. I found that to be, because there was a Hellcat.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that didn't happen.
What?
Yeah.
I think he said it, a Hellcat or 100,000.
Something like that.
Or he would do 100,000 if they didn't want the car, which, right, I would do too, because you have to go through selling the car. But so I don't know. And listen, that's Ryan's prerogative. He wants to invest $100,000 in AWP. Listen, I'm not. It's fine. I do. Listen. Ryan has said horrible stuff about me and horrible stuff about the family and about a lot of people. I never even heard of the guy before this case, but and he owes a lot of apologies to people. However, if he wants to invest, that's fine. I think he was caught off guard. I think this shocked him. I think he is genuinely pissed. I do believe him, where he's like, I want my money back. I can't believe you, and so I'm not saying that he's endorsing Jared at all. I think he is genuinely pissed, but we'll see.
We'll see. Oh, and I think he's either too rich to apologize or too rich to care. I'm like, that's the attitude at least he gives off to we the people over here.
Hopefully he'll come around. I'd just like to see him in some way apologize to the family. I know that they were especially hurt by the "she's not real" comment. Even though there's been some really horrible stuff said, like, oh, the mom murder or stuff, what really got them was the "she's not real."
That's disgusting to have said that about someone's child, and then this tragedy as well. Tell me what you think about Doug's Bishop's statement.
Yeah. So again, I don't want to sound like I'm piling on that, or I have this personal thing against them, but I just I don't know if Doug knew or not. I find it hard to believe, like I said earlier, that I knew, but these guys didn't, because AWP really is a tech company. They're divers, but it's really a tech company. They're running a YouTube channel and a website. It's creating a tremendous amount of cash flow. It's all about search engine. If you look through Jared's personal website, it's all about search engine optimization, marketing. So these guys are really connected online, and they monitor the subreddits and stuff like that. I just got to believe that they do. But let's say they don't, and Doug didn't know. That video, it was all about him. It was about how this is affecting him and the other guys, and he he's going to lose this, but what about, he never said anything about the victims. Like, I hope these victims get justice. I hope that, like, he pays for he said he didn't condone it, but I mean, he didn't say anything to victims. He didn't say, I'm sorry for what you're going through. I can't believe, this happening. It's just like, and how it was affecting them for 30 years. It was like, I don't know. So I had a heart, and again, it's going to sound like I just hate AWP, which, I just don't understand how they're just can be so insensitive. But again, I've seen it with Kylie's family too. What they did to Kylie's family, so I guess I shouldn't be shocked. But it's the same pattern.
There wasn't a whole lot of care for that whole case, in my opinion. I feel like they were pretty, and this is just me. I don't take away the crown of having found her and all that other stuff, but it was pretty reckless. To it, especially that time gap. I almost wondering, it's like, let's get our footage, and that's how they're conditioned to kind of like they do great work, but maybe they were so conditioned to work on a YouTube channel because that's where they get their income.
Yeah, I wish they would, and I've said this for a long time now, I wish they'd just release all the footage they shot, because they were holding it almost like, hey, we've got this like shocking stuff, and like, wait till you hear the conversation with the dad and grandpa. I know everything that was said there. I was there, so it's like, I also, but it would bring a lot of things to the surface if they just release all the footage. Let's see what Nick had to say for the rest of it. Let's hear what they told us at the crash site of what Nick said, and release it. And they said they would, and now they won't. And like, I've talked the people that they said that they called for the notification. I've talked to those people. Like, I know the truth, and it's really frustrating. But now we've seen this pattern. Because it wouldn't be that hard for them to say, yeah, you know what, we messed up. We should have called. People are like, oh, they didn't have the numbers, and why didn't the family give them the right numbers? The family didn't know. Nobody knew what day they were. Everybody heard that they were coming like Sunday night, and then all of a sudden Thursday night they appear in town because they said they left early, and so they weren't telling anybody where they were at or anything, and so, and they weren't, I don't know how they got the other two family members' numbers. The family doesn't know either, but the family had a trailer, a volunteer center set up basically at the entrance to the property. You had to drive by the trailer, and their phone numbers, the family's phone numbers, were on a whiteboard on the side of the trailer. Like, everybody was supposed to check in at the trailer anyways. That's how I met the family, just by going and checking in as a volunteer.
I think, what's so interesting is when you have, like, especially in government agencies, right?
Mm-hmm.
When there is either a mishandling of money or something happens, somebody's death, there's a real thorough, typically, an audit of what happens. And I kind of wonder whether the work that they do is audited that way. Like, from the time, like, what does that even look like, right? Because if you think about, we're taking in the whole YouTube community, it's a whole community here, right? And they're YouTubers, they have a YouTube channel, and they release some of this information out here. And we have taken a lot of what they say as like Bible, as truth,
Mm-hmm.
given that they're doing God's work, so to speak,
Yes.
right? Collecting what they have to do. But I'm just wondering what regulation or what regulates any of that.
Well, as a private search group, I don't think there is any actual, they should have internal, checks and balances. But one thing I will say is that it's not just AWP, that, like, people think that I'm like involved in this cover up with the sheriff's department. People are saying I'm CIA. It's crazy. But this has
Great,
been,
Steve. We're going to say I'm CIA too because we're interviewing. Great.
People are like, you are the worst private investigator ever. You don't know a thing. And then they go and say he's CIA and he orchestrated this whole elaborate cover up. Like, which is it? But anyway, law enforcement, this has been, I've never seen a shit show like this before. I mean, this is a horrible investigation. I mean, how First of all, when I found the fire camera, I was furious. I was furious because they should have known. First of all, that they have an app for the fire camera that any first responder, police, firefighters, paramedics can download to their phone. That app has the ability to zoom the camera in and all kinds of shit. So they should have known the day after she went missing and they knew she was at that party in Prosser. They should have pulled the fire cam footage. They would have seen what happened. And she should have been found within 12 hours. There should have been a search for Kylie. And the fact that, 2.5 months later, it took to, before, I found it. And, but and then then AWP comes in, they find her, and, I know they mapped the bottom, I think, for 4 hours, and then they went in and they found her after 30 minutes of being in the water. That, obviously, law enforcement was embarrassed by that, but you know what? So what they did is law enforcement they shut down even further, which is just, and they've gone completely silent, which I wouldn't be that pissed about if they were really keeping even family and stuff involved. But I know that, they have been, keeping them informed to an extent, but it's just like, the whole investigation was so screwed up, and it continues to be, because people are like, was it open? Is it closed? Why there's no press conference? So it's just been a horrible, so there should be a lot of accountability there. And that is something that I think that needs to go up the ladder, and that this investigation needs to be investigated. Absolutely. It's been,
right.
It's been horrible, and it's caused a lot of suffering on the family. That a lot of that, most of that lies on law enforcement. And now I get that they're not used to these size for this type of investigation, because they are smaller departments and stuff, but
because they had 6 agencies involved total, right?
There you go. So you got the FBI, and those were all involved. Now, some of them most of them had paired way back by the time she was found, including the FBI. They didn't have that many agents left there. They had 40 originally, I think. I think they were down to 3 or 4. Some obviously came back, but there's no reason, but once they figured out that it wasn't a crime, after she'd been recovered, within a week or so, some of those agencies had closed their investigations. And Prosser, the day she was found, they closed theirs because they just had a missing person investigation. So, and she was found in Nevada County. So Nevada became the lead agency. CHP, I know that that investigation is congressional investigation is done, but they have to redact the report. And I do think I believe they are going to release that highly redacted report here soon. But yeah, it's been I don't know. It's really a shame, but it was handled poorly. And the sheriff using the strategy of Moon or whatever her name is, using the strategy of just going silent is not the way to do it. She should just get out in front of it and be like, yeah, there's a lot of agencies to handle, and it's a learning process, I guess, or something, but it was not done. It was not done well. So
there was that clip that I sent you by Exploring with Nug.
That this is not fabricated. And on top of that, somebody also said, well, these emails could be fabricated. Somebody could have wrote these. Jared couldn't have, he didn't write these, stuff like that. But Jared has already said that his official statement is the emails back and forth between him and his cousin. I got that text from him because I reached out to him and I was like, hey, I heard what's going on. I want you to know, because this is before I knew anything. And I thought he was my friend. So I told you, I sent him a text. I was like, hey, I heard what's going on, dude. I got your back if you need anything. That was me, my first reaction, because I thought maybe I had a friend getting railroaded. But that's me jumping the gun too fast before I knew what the hell was going on. And that was dumb on my part. But he did write back, very generic message saying, my official statement is what I wrote back and forth with my cousin. That's public on Reddit. So anybody could read these.
Did you watch? What did you think about that clip?
You're talking about where he talks about the text that Jared sent him? Yes, yeah. There you go. For those
definitely corroborating at least.
For those that are saying that, so we knew Jared had essentially confessed to this if that was Jared in the emails. But then when he has a text exchange with this guy the day that the news broke about the indictment or the charges. He texts Jared, from what I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, as a friend, saying, "Hey, I'm here if you need it." And Jared replies back something effective. My official statement is the email between the cousin and myself. So if that's his official statement, then he's admitting that yes, he did this when she was 9 years old.
Steve, what do you think about, like, in now information's coming out about his wife knowing? What do you think about that?
I it's not something I could wrap my head around because I just have never been in. I mean, I see a lot of because I only do missing persons, like usually minor, usually kidnapped and stuff. But and then the only other area that I do this work in is domestic violence cases. So I've seen a lot, but nothing. I can't wrap my head around that. Like with the family, it's not from what Jared says in his emails. His daughters know. He's having this
Yeah.
conversation with his daughters, and I don't know how you tell your daughters that, like you're trying to be open and honest about it, but skirt the whole. I never paid a penalty. Like there was no like, where's like, if you haven't gone to law enforcement, you really haven't been accountable. So if everybody knows this, it's got to be like, okay, so here's the information. Do not say anything to anybody because we don't want law enforcement to find out. So I don't know how that. I don't know. It's so now you've just created these deep secrets within this family. It seems like that really aren't that secret, but they all. There's something they got to live with. I'm sure it's got to bother his daughters. I mean, it's got to be horrible to have that now attached to them. And the wife, I don't get it. Like, I don't know if it's the culture they. I know Jared tries to blame it on like this family culture or has something
Mormonism or something
maybe.
like that.
What's that?
He tried to blame it on Mormonism.
Yeah, the LDS or something like that. Still, I think I don't know. Like, and the thing is there's probably a lot of answers out there in their families' backgrounds and stuff, but I'm just not going to dig. It's not my investigation. In like it takes away from helping some missing people. I mean, it's tempting, don't get me wrong, but it's like for what purpose? Like because I'm not trying to like
I think they're going through enough, right?
they're going through enough. I'm not trying to like kill AWP. I hope those guys, if the guys did not know about this, I hope that they move on, thrive. I think that their non-competes and their NDAs are void because Jared failed on his duty to perform on his end, and because of laws in Oregon regarding non-competes. But as long as they didn't know, I was not trying to kill AWP at all, but this is something that you cannot give a free pass on. I mean, multiple times. And listen, he's charged with 2 counts of this, but it happened more times. There was times that it happened in Nevada but Nevada has a statute of limitations, so he's not being charged with those. So it didn't, there's more instances than just this twice,
I don't know how it, he will have his day in court. And so to be determined, right, what comes out of that. Whew, it's a lot. I'll say that much. I mean, what do you think? Do you think he's going to be working a deal if?
Yeah, I don't think he'll go. I don't think we'll ever see a trial. He's
you don't think so?
He's going to, no, I think he's going to have to plead. Like, it would be, for the details to be on the record of this particular crime are going to be so horrendous. There's just no way. And, keep in mind, like, he's a target right now. I mean, as everybody knows in the prison communities, these are the people that are the trophies, to go after, the pedophiles. And he's going to be, if he's found guilty, if they don't find a technicality, which they very well could, he could walk from this. But, he'll be a registered sex offender too. So he'll he'll have to notify his neighbors. He'll be on the registry. Anytime he travels to another state, he's got to check in. He's got to inform people where he's staying. It's going to make it. He's not going to be going back doing AWP, and that's why these guys. I don't think they could ever. If they didn't know, I hope they go off and start their own deal or whatever. But they can't be AWP because AWP is always going to be attached to sex offender guy Jared.
Why do you think he didn't address this head on, like any of it?
I think arrogant. I think he just thought he was bulletproof. I think he figured he was bringing in tons of cash, and he has these 3 million people online, which for anybody that's been in those crosshairs, which I've experienced some of, he has an army of people he can unleash on you, and they will, and they did. And I think he thought, hey, listen, I'm kind of untouchable. And he probably thought the statute of limitations lapsed. And he thought that if, I'm sure that he knew that the cousin had been probably for years trying to get somebody's attention at the DA's office. And he just figured if it happened now, it's never going to happen. But if you have that in your past and you haven't dealt with it, it can come up anytime.
It will.
It will.
Any of it. Even these weapon charges that I think people could have been like, all right, cool. Rough life. He did talk about a rough life in his About Me page. He just didn't mention the victims within his family. Right.
Yeah. Oof. And I think he probably feels that as the provider in his family, as far as his daughters and his wife go, he probably is like, hey, I'm right. Yeah, I did this, but I just don't get the how that conversation goes without talking about the accountability, because how does he explain this to his daughters when they're younger, and not talk about people got to be accountable for actions like that? I'd love to know how that conversation went. I'm sure he went through sort of, sounds to me just from the language of his emails that he went through some type of therapy through LDS, where I know that they have some program where if you do this and then you're washed away of all your past stuff. And just from the language he uses when he talks to the cousin, where he says, if you'd like me to help you get in touch with another family member, also abused, it sounds like. So it seems like he's really, in his mind, he's free and clear. And which is maybe his daughters think that too, but how do you say, well, you didn't really pay any penalty, for that? I don't know.
Wow. Steve, I don't have any more questions for you. I just want to thank you. Do you have anything else for me? I'm just kind of this was awesome.
No, I just became aware of you not too long ago, and I appreciate that. You just kind of take, not by what the public out there is trying to turn into, you kind of take the facts and present them as they are. And I saw your show actually with the cousin and the sister the other day, and so I appreciate that. That's why I was willing to come on, because
thank you.